Hi everyone, I'm Charlene from So Dressmaking, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favourite sewing books. So I have always loved learning from a book. It's just, I suppose everyone has their preferences. Some people are visual learners, whereas I definitely prefer having a physical book or page or booklet or something in front of me that I can actually read from. And it's the same with everything. I prefer reading an actual novel, like a book in my hands, as opposed to like a Kindle or something. And even, leaflets and booklets about different things, I much prefer to have an actual like page in front of me. I hate trying to read things like longer passages on my phone and stuff. So it's just, I've always preferred having a book, and definitely prefer learning and reading and different things like that from a book. So I have got a lot of sewing books, sewing related books, so many technical ones, and then loads of like different pattern books, different information, and yeah, I love them. I will go find a book that I know has the information I need far quicker than I would look on my phone. And I think there's just so many distractions on your phone too. It can be nice to actually just have that book in front of you and be able to read it. So some of these books are quite old now. This one, so we'll start off with the Winifred Aldrich Metric Pattern Cutting. This is the 4th edition. There's now the 6th edition, which I actually do have arriving today. I finally got it, but I got this book in when I was at university. So it is now, it's 20 years old, this one, and I think you can tell like it has been well used and well loved. This one was first published in 1975, so the method of pattern cutting that's used in this has been around for a really long time, well, for 50 years. And so this is what I used to learn pattern drafting at university, and it's always the book that I would reference whenever, it's the method I use for teaching pattern drafting as well. It is also great. So obviously I'm talking about pattern drafting. Not everyone wants to know how to draft their own patterns, but I have found it even before I had started drafting more patterns, I used it a lot for hacking my existing patterns. So the way it goes through, changing, because obviously once you have your block, you have to change it, you have to adapt it. So it has loads of different sleeves, and it gives you the sort of here, so it'll give you like a really simple line drawn and then shows you how to do it. And I find the information in it, it's really like clear and to the point and easy to follow. There's no like fluff around it. It is there, and this is what you have to do. And I've always found, so I started off hacking more patterns before I really started drafting my own when I came back to sewing. So I would have used this a lot then to like get, a bishop sleeve or a puff sleeve, or how to change a neckline or add a collar, all that sort of thing. So I do think it's very good for that. And there's also a really great section about how to measure yourself and get accurate measurements, which I think everyone would find really, really helpful. So even if you have no interest in pattern drafting, if you want to start hacking your patterns and changing the designs, I think this is a really great book to have. Then the next one, so this is another book that I got quite early on when I started sewing again, and it is Wendy Ward's A Beginner's Guide to Sewing with Knitted Fabrics. So this covers everything you need to know about sewing with stretchy fabrics. So I just find, again, the information in this is really clear. It's really easy to find what you need. So at the start, it goes through, so like choosing the right seam for your fabric. So it tells you, what the type of fabric is, what stitch to use, if you need to use a different stitch for like sewing the neckband or for sewing the hem, all that sort of thing. It covers all of it. And there's all these sort of like table sections in it, which covers, like the right, the right needle to use for your fabric, there's so much information in it. And there's a really great section at the back about different types of fibres and fabrics, stretchy fabrics. So like the difference between an interlock jersey or a Ponte Roma, it covers all of that. And I find it so much easier. So especially for the likes of this, if you want that information. It's so much quicker to go and find it in a book than it is to find it online. So because you have to go through all the different Google searches and see, which one is right. And I do think as well, it's hard now online to know, is the information coming from a person or is it coming from AI? So there was something that I was looking up last year, and it was just something I wanted to double check to make sure I was right. And trying to find it online, I was going through all these different sources, all these different things, and there was one page in particular, and as I was reading through, it kept coming back to, like, it was repeating the same sort of block of sentences, and I was like, am I rereading the same thing? I was getting really confused, and it happened quite a few times. And then it dawned on me that it wasn't written by a person, it was written by an AI. And it's just, I think it's so easy now to get misinformation online, and it's hard to know, is it genuine? I think obviously if it's coming from a source that you know and trust, that's different, but it's so hard to find information online now that is genuine and it's not spat out by a machine, and just to get clicks and to get ad views and all this sort of different thing. There's just so many pitfalls to it. We're not getting into that because that's a whole other TED talk on the perils of AI. But anyway, it has its benefits, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of problems with it. Anyway, back to my point. I think if you're going to a book, the chances are, if something has been published, especially within the sewing community, I think the chances are, it's going to be right. It's much more likely to be right than what you would get online. And I think there's obviously all the distractions online too. So I do think anytime I have a question or anytime I'm just querying something, especially when I started sewing with jersey and stretch fabrics, I always went back to this book, and it had the information I needed, like the needle to use. Even now, if I'm using a stretchy fabric and it's been a wee bit troublesome, I'll check this to see if there is any information that I've maybe missed. So yeah, I do think, and I think the patterns in this are really good. The other book I would recommend if you're starting to sew with stretchy fabrics is Tilly and the Buttons. Any of her books at all for beginners. I do have Make It Simple, but it's down in the room where I teach, because I would recommend it a lot to my sewing students who are starting out. So it's just ended up staying down there. But the two of them, between this and the Tilly one, it has very different aesthetics. So I find the patterns in this are much more me, whereas the ones in Tilly's book maybe aren't. But obviously everyone has a different style, so go for whichever one you prefer. But I think the patterns in this are very basic, so I think I have made all of them apart from the skirt. So there's like wide leg trousers, there's a vest, there's joggers, there's a t-shirt, and there's a skirt. So it is a really, really great book, and I have made, as I say, quite a lot from it. Then this is another sort of earlier book that I got, and it is the Named Clothing, Breaking the Pattern. And again, I really liked a lot of the garments in this one, and I think so most sewing books I would say are between maybe like £20 and £30, but you're getting at least 10 to 20 patterns in each book, which I think is fantastic value. It's so much more value than what you would get from a single sewing pattern. Obviously I sell sewing patterns, so I shouldn't probably say that, but the dream is to have a book. But I think obviously the drawbacks are you have to trace off your patterns because they're all on sort of double-sided pages and overlapped a wee bit. But I think the patterns in this are, I've made most of them. I think the only two I haven't made is the tote bag at the start and the coat at the end, but everything else in between I have made them. And there is a lot of different views with each pattern as well, so you can get a lot of different there's a lot of different things that you can make from them. And yeah, I think the most made one from this is probably the ruscety, which I've made quite a few of, and I'm going to actually make a few again because I do really like the fit of it. It has the sort of seam down the front. I've made the jeans as well, which I really liked at the time. It was my first jeans. So yeah, it has a really cute knot front t-shirt. So yeah, loads of amazing patterns in this one. And one of the things I liked about this was if you're starting out with sewing and you're sort of new to it, if you start from the start and work your way through, this book actually builds each pattern, builds a new skill. So you're starting off with a tote bag, and then it's like a really simple blouse, and then simple trousers, and it sort of keeps building on each step so that you're learning something new each time. So it's nearly like a course in dressmaking, but in an order that makes sense for when you're starting out sewing. So I do think, and then obviously you're ending with the jeans and the coat, which is quite a complex project. You know, there's a shirt in there, there's jumpsuits, there's dresses, so there's looser dresses, and then there's more fitted dresses. So it gives you that sort of, you can build on your techniques with each project. So yeah, I really, really like this one. And as I say, I've used it a lot. Then the next book it's a more technical one, so probably wouldn't appeal to everyone, but if you're going to be making any sort of jacket, like a blazer, anything with welt pockets, with a collar, with any of those slightly more technical details, this book is going to be invaluable. It is so, so good. The way it explains welt pockets is just, I had made a few, and I think there were simplicity patterns. Obviously, we all know the instructions aren't great. There's a lot of blanks left, but I had done the welt pockets. They didn't work out well following the pattern instructions, and then when I got this and read it, it just made sense. It explains why you're sewing at a certain distance from the edge of the welt, and you know what measurements you need and what way you need to sew it to make it actually look neat. And it just, whenever I read it, it just made so much sense. The pictures, I think, are really clear. There's loads. I love when there's big pictures and then a little bit of information. It breaks it all down a lot. And I think that's one of the things with books. You've obviously got a lot more room to go into more detail. So you are going to get that compared to a pattern. And there's so many beautiful details in this, like how to get a really nice shaped collar, and all the different types of interface and enhanced stitching, and it's such a lovely book. So if you're sort of on the more advanced end and you want to sort of try tailoring or anything like that, I do really, really recommend this book. It's fantastic. Then the next one is, and I could have pulled out a few different ones for this, but this is a French pattern book, Ma Garde-Robe Bohème Chic, and she's Charlene Hands on Instagram, and I just followed her style and I really liked her, and then I seen she was releasing the book, so I had to get it. And it is just, this one in particular is just a beautiful book. It is so lovely. Just the gold foil on the spine, and it has all the patterns inside, but the photography and everything is just gorgeous. And they have like all these wee floral designs on the sides, and honestly it is just beautiful, and the patterns in it are really lovely. So there's quite a few patterns in this that I really liked and that I wanted to make. So, and really nice wee details. So you've got this wee like ruffle on the short, which is really cute. That blouse is gorgeous, and it comes, again, you'll find with books there'll be like a sort of a block. So with this, it's like this sort of square neck shape with the puff sleeve, and then it shows you like a blouse, and then like a short sleeve blouse and then a long sleeve, and then you've got a maxi dress. So it kind of takes you through different variations of each one, which I think is great, because once you've made it once and you know you've got your fit right, then you can expand on that and try different things. But the style in this was just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, that wee blouse is just so cute. So yeah, loads of really lovely patterns in this. Obviously it's written in French, but the pictures are always really clear, I find. I mean, obviously I've got quite a few French pattern books, and most of them I have found I only need to look up a few steps. Obviously if you're just starting out, you might need a wee bit more help, but most phones have, like a lot of phones now anyway, have like a translate app on them, or you can use Google Translate and take a photo and it translates it for you. So I think the language barrier definitely shouldn't hold you back. If you see a pattern book and it's in a different language and you really like it, chances are the photos are going to explain everything really well, and obviously like the numbers translate the same in every language. So if you know what seam allowance is, or what, you know, bust and waist and hips is in that language, then you'll be able to figure out your measurements or what the seam allowance is and all that sort of thing. So I think the core information you need is easy to find, and then after that it's just maybe checking a few different words to make sure you've got it right. But the patterns in this are so lovely. It's a really, really beautiful book, very inspirational. And then the last one I have here is the Zero Waste Patterns by Brigitte Helmerson. I had got a few of her patterns, and then I seen she was releasing the book, and knew I was going to get it. Again, it's a really lovely book. There's loads of really nice projects in it. There's a few I've made the shirt in it. Where is it? And I just think if you've been sewing for maybe a while and you've made quite a few patterns and you want to see sort of, it's a different method obviously of making something, and I find it very interesting to see how they use the different pieces from each, from what's been cut out, what that little shape is going to turn into. I think it's very interesting to see how you can take, a piece of fabric and turn it into a garment without wasting anything. It is very interesting, and the way it's done is very clever. So yeah, I think if you want to see, obviously there's things like a skirt, which is very basic, but the wee vest is actually quite cute. And I think a lot of the time you kind of assume that the zero waist patterns are going to be quite boxy, but some of these garments actually aren't. So like this vest actually has quite a nice fit, and it has darts. There's the bias bound armholes. It's lovely, and you can see where different bits have been used. Like as a wee summer vest top, I think this is absolutely gorgeous, and I might actually make it now. I've loads of like smaller bits of linen, which I think would be perfect for making some of these. So yeah, I do think if you're interested in something, making something a wee bit different, even the trousers there, I don't think the things in this book have that sort of typical boxy, oversized sort of feel that you get with a zero waist pattern. There's some really interesting designs in this. And then it shows you, there's the 5 main projects, and then it shows you how to adapt them. So the vest, I don't know if you can see it, I'll put a picture in. It can actually turn into a wee dress if you add on like the rectangle at the bottom for the gathered skirt. So there's quite a lot of really nice details in this, and you do only have so these are your pattern pieces really. There's not much to trace off there, and it is just like a template really that you're using to get different shapes from places. So yeah, it's a nice one if you want to try sort of that different design method, different sewing method, and seeing different construction, just to give you something different. So yeah, that is it from me. And yeah, as I said, I love books. I love sewing books especially, and I have so many technical ones, loads about pattern drafting, loads about pattern grading, my goodness. So yeah, I just love a book. So yeah, if there's any other sort of video like this, I do have a few lined up. So I want to share like my favorite sewing tools. I'm going to share my favorite pattern brands and my favorite patterns that, obviously my own patterns are my favorites, but then after that I've made a lot of other patterns too. So I'm going to share some of my top patterns. But yeah, if there's anything else you want me to share, do let me know in the comments, and I will pop in a link below. So I do have like an Amazon storefront. I know Amazon isn't the best place to be shopping from, but there's not many places, especially in Northern Ireland, to get sewing books from a shop, which I would much rather do, but just isn't always an option. But anyway, I will pop my link, which has all these books in it in the one place, and it is an affiliate link, so I do get a small commission from it. So it's a little bit less that's going into his pocket. But yeah, I will, and if there's any other books that you like that I haven't mentioned, put them in the comments below as well, because if I don't have it, I might get it because I'm always looking for new books. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I will chat to you all soon. Bye.